Amy, I'm assuming you can see the two cameras now. Golly, that iPad is horrible.
Yes, I can.
The quality of it looks awful.
I am live on Facebook, but I don't know what they hear yet.
Probably us. Hi, everybody, if there's anybody here. No.
I can hear you.
Golly, that iPad is horrible.
Yes, I can.
The quality.
I can hear you.
Golly, that iPad is horrible.
All right, Facebook, we are going to get started with the fire starter workshop here in just about 5 minutes. You've got the countdown timer. Go grab your drinks, a snack. If you're going to build one with us, go ahead and get whatever you use to build a fire. And we're going to see you here in just 5 minutes. We are just finalizing the last little bit of stuff. All right. So I think we're still streaming live. So thank you guys for bearing in there as we figure out the technology piece of bringing multiple cameras to you for a virtual fire starting workshop. I'm Amy Hope with HTX Outdoors and Bayou City Outdoors, and we have a special guest here. We have Nick Blackman with Wazoo Survival Gear. He is going to help us figure out what we need to build a fire and go through various cases. Welcome, Nick.
Hey, everybody. Now that I'm not on mute, hope everybody's chimed in here. And I want to keep this as interactive as we can. Right now, I'm just breaking up some sticks, but I can show you what I got. We'll start and kind of talk through overall general concept of why fire is important. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware that it is, and it seems to be not just a mental piece of camping and backpacking and hiking, but it's also a very crucial survival element. The reason for that is it can provide us with safety. So it can keep away predators, discourage them from coming into camp. It can give you light, it can give you heat, and could potentially help save your life in a situation if it was truly needed to maintain your core body temperature if you didn't have a shelter, for example.
And Nick, just so you're aware, we can see all three cameras, so that function is working.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think you are able to toggle between them, correct?
Oh.
I think if you, because it should just be on speaker mode default, you can kind of see the jump back and forth.
Now it's just you.
All right. So yeah, as long as it goes around when talking, if you need to cut to the bigger camera, you can. So talk about the general purpose of fire. If you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I assume Amy's tracking comments somewhere or somebody can see those. But overall, the importance of fire is there. Not only is it safety, it's body warmth, it can save your life, but it also can help purify water. So if you have a container to boil in, you can get safe drinking water via fire. So all these things tied together makes it an extremely crucial element for survival. And for us, when we're looking at survival, it's typically the rule of threes is what you'll go to. So that's 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and they say 3 months without human contact. And that's kind of being pushed to its limits now with the new TV series Alone. The other one that we work into in search and rescue is 3 seconds without a positive mental attitude. And they're finding more and more that your mental attitude controls everything. So that's the survival rule of threes. You'll notice nowhere in there is the fire itself, but the fire is a critical element of all of those things. Not only does it give you positive mental attitude, it can help you get the water, it can help provide shelter, being the heat, the body warmth, and all of that. So it kind of ties as an integral part into everything. Now, for a lot of us, we just enjoy it. It's a nice ambiance, and we like having it around. We like going camping with fire, having a beer by the fire, and all that. So what we're going to talk about is effective, efficient means of starting fires. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced a lot of this stuff in the past, but hopefully you'll learn something new through this class or workshop, if you will. I don't know if anybody is following along, going to build one with us. I'm going to flip my camera around here. So if you're following along,
feel free to ask questions in the comment section on Facebook. We are tracking those, and we will spend some time going through your questions. Nick, I'm gonna not build along with you, but at some point I'm gonna attempt to use that little flint and steel.
Yeah.
That's to come, guys. I've never done it before, so we're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, so we'll get into all the fire starters and stuff, but if anybody's building along, what I'm going to start with here is kind of the preparation with fire. I think preparation is a huge thing that is missed, and so it's good to be organized, have all your stuff ready. So if you're building along at home, this is what you need to start with. Start gathering up. It's generally 2 handfuls of smaller than pencil sized stuff. The closer it is to pencil lead size, the better. You could do this as pine needles. You could do it as small twigs like I have here. Even some grasses could work well. The next stage is going to be slightly pencil sized or larger. And then you get up into your fuel size stuff later on. But getting it all organized like this allows you to build it in a sequential manner. So what we're going to do to create a fire is we're going to start with an ignition source that then has to turn to a flame. And then we're trying to increase the size of that flame. And if you haven't heard it before, fire is essentially a triangle. There's 3 components that have to be present for it to ignite and for it to be a fire. The first of which is heat. So you need a heat source that can ignite stuff. The next one is oxygen. Without oxygen, fire can't burn. And then there has to be a fuel source, which is what's actually burning. A lot of people know that, but a lot of people don't estimate or predict the ratio correctly. So if you have 2, go ahead.
Want to see my fire starter prep that I did?
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay,
Let's
so
see.
you guys just saw Nick's organized one. Okay, this is quite funny now. I've got my bag. If you can see it, my bag from camping. And then I threw a big stick with some pine cones and wood that the dog chewed up in the fire pit. I'm ready to go. Let's do this.
You got it. So I'm teaching the efficient, like easy, dummy-proof method that if you do all this, you're good to go. Now, what you can do is start challenging yourself. You can cut out any individual piece of this and challenge yourself to see if you can get there, or give yourself worse tinder. And there's a lot of fun you can have with it. But to be successful, start off, learn the basics, and go from there. Ideally, that is one of the biggest things that people miss, is estimating the quantity of stuff. So like I said, this year you want probably 2 handfuls, because that's gonna take your ignition source, your small flame. This will catch really quickly and turn into a large flame. You need that large flame to transfer your heat into your thicker materials. If we went straight from this little stuff to the fuel on the end down there, our fire's going to go out. It doesn't work well. It's all based on surface area. So the reason I think probably a lot of you guys use dryer lint as your ignition source. This is, if you look at it on a very small level, tiny little fibers. And so there's a ton of surface area there. None of those fibers are very thick, so it's all pretty much surface. And that's why you can take a small amount of heat and it'll turn into flame. This stuff, on the other hand, we start now getting more material in the middle. So there's more material, a little bit less surface area, and then that continues to be the case all the way up. What happens is the smaller the fiber, the smaller the diameter, the easier it'll take a flame, but the faster it goes out. That's why when we get into our fuel, we want it to be nice, thick, heavy stuff, because it'll turn into coals, it'll last a long time, and that's what gives us our long-lasting warmth of the fires. But to get from a spark of a tiny flame all the way up to the fuel, you have to go in a sequential manner, or it's most successful if you go in a sequential manner. While we're on the topic of these, I want to also discuss dry kindling. So all of this here we're calling kindling. That's our wood. I guess these 3 would be kindling. The last one down there is fuel. When we get into our ignition sources, these are considered tinder. So the dryer lint is a tinder. It's going to take a spark and turn that into a flame for us. And then there's other forms of tinder as well. We'll talk about fat wood here. We'll go into some more depth on that. And then we also have what we call tinder extenders. So because we mentioned that this is going to go out really quickly, you can combine other things with it. And one of the more common ones, one of the most reliable, and one of the ones I like personally, is Vaseline or triple antibiotic ointment. If you soak that on your cotton ball or your dryer lint, that's considered a tinder extender, because what it does is it starts to candle. So instead of you burning the fibers and the filaments themselves, you're burning off all the oils first. And you can do the same thing even if you carry a tube of chapstick. So you could pop off some of the chapstick, rub some off with your fingers, smear it in there. That also will extend your tinder. And we're talking on the scale of if this here burns for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, you put some tinder extender on it, you can pretty well saturate it, and you might get 30 seconds to 2 minutes, depending how much you put in there, burn time.
Nick, I'm so glad you talked about that, because I feel like I see Tinder and Kindle used interchangeably, but you're saying that there's two completely different uses for the term.
Yes, and it is, yes, because in my mind, in the way that it works, your tinder is what takes the spark and turns it into a flame, and then your kindling is what turns that flame into a fire, and your fuel is what keeps the fire going. And so that's kind of the linear process of all of it.
The 1, 2, 3 of fire building.
Yes.
Cool.
The other things I had here, these are actually a product that we sell at Wazoo. We call them Ranger bands, but they're essentially just a really heavy duty rubber band intended for outdoor use. But a lot of people don't know rubber is flammable as well. These are made of an EPDM rubber. Rubber, when it burns hot with a large flame, but it also puts off a lot of soot. So you really don't want to burn these unless you have to. But just so you know, if you're ever stuck and you really need to ensure fire, you can use some rubber. In signal fires, if you're ever lost or stranded and you somehow find a tire, you can burn that, and it creates a very dark smoke that is easy to see from a distance. All right, so while people are gathering up sticks and doing that, oh, that was the other thing I wanted to show. So I've got, can you just put them inside so you stop yelling? Please. So all of these sticks here, they all generally look to be the same. This one has dead leaves on it. This one has kind of dead little berries and stems and things. What you want to do when you're looking for the kindling is do a break test. So you want a nice quick snap. So easy snap. It pops all at once and pretty much falls apart. That is perfectly dry, good stuff. So it's got some good fuel on the inside. That's why it takes an attempt to snap it. But the way it just completely falls apart there means it's nice and dry. On the other hand, even though this looks dead, I can't do the same thing with it. So when I break it, it just kind of bends and stays attached, and it's not coming off. You don't get that solid snap as much. So this, I'm trying to get you, if you can hear that, let me go up higher here. So it's just more of like a mush bend, and you see it's still got a whole bunch of fibers attached in there. And so that is actually still somewhat green. So if you try and start your fire with that, it's probably not going to go well. So pitch that to the side.
And so Nick, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So you call that green wood versus wet wood?
Yes.
Okay, because yes. I think that's another place where I hear a lot of incorrect terminology between wet, green. So it's purpose.
I mean, personal preference in a sense, but for the sake of clarity, I call it green wood because it is not fully dried to the sense that it's dead and crispy. The reason that I do that is because to me, wet wood is something different. So we just had rain here yesterday, day before. So my firewood stack at that point, after a rain, that becomes wet wood. And it's still usable because what you can do is you can get down to the inside of it. So it's a good segue into this part. This is ideal. It's easy to gather. It's easy to snap. You don't need any tools. This is what a lot of people will end up doing. But if you find yourself camping or backpacking in an area that doesn't allow, well, probably not backpacking, that doesn't allow collection of materials at the site, if you go to one of the gas stations and buy a pack of firewood, you're going to end up with blocks of firewood like this. So what you can do is you can still create your same piles, and I bundled this up so it wouldn't blow away. But this was done just using a fixed blade knife So fixed blade knife here just means it's not a folding blade. The tang runs all the way down, so it's a full tang. So what I could do is actually set this on top of the board and use, or on top of the log, and use a technique called batoning, where you then take a heavier stick and drive it down through the wood. And that's how you can split with just a simple fixed blade knife. And so I did all of this with this blade. And what I created is I went from log size, split it down smaller. I have even smaller bits from there, and then all the way down to shavings. So as long as I have something that can take my spark and turn it into a flame, this will catch the flame. That'll make the flame larger, all the way up to my fuel. So this is a method you can use even if you're not allowed to harvest materials where you're camping.
That's awesome, Nick, because so many times, especially after Harvey, it was so difficult to get campfires started, even with lighter fluid, because the wood just, I think it was just wet to the core, you know? And and so a lot of times after rain, you know, when hardly anybody keeps their firewood covered. So when you're at that gas station, or you're even buying it at the park, depending on what the rules are, like even the parks don't have it covered. And so you're always getting, it feels like more times than not, you're getting wood that's wet like that. So it's a lot of times you don't have like a hatchet, even if people have hatchets, like I have one, but I'm scared to use it, right? I'm always scared I'm just gonna knock it right into my shin. So that seems like a much, you know, more stable way to do it. And I love to see that you had your forging bandana to hold all of that. So just in case everyone on here doesn't know, Nick is from Wazoo Survival, and so he's got all kinds of survival gear. That bandana is really cool. It has 12 native Texas plants, right? That you're
yeah, they're actually they're commonly found all over North America. So we worked with a guy in Texas to do it, and we also worked with Nicole Appelian, who's out in Washington. But they're 12 of the most common and most useful around the U.S.
It's so cool because they have like so much information on one bandana. Like if you can use it, you know, eat it, not eat it, do it for, you know, use it for medicinal reasons or whatnot. So it's really cool. You can show us that at the end.
Yeah. And again, bandanas, that I just used it here mainly to keep my stuff from blowing away, but I'm going to have to use my other one, which is an animal tracking version, to collect stuff. I mean, they're super versatile when you're out there, and it's nice when you're doing these small shavings and stuff, especially if you're in the woods around your campfire. As you're shaving these, they're just flying off all different directions, and then you got to collect them through the grass and the weeds. But if you lay this out, they'll all end up there. You fold it up, and it kind of pre-bundles them for you. Now, there is a technique that I recommend people look up as you get into this further. The reason I don't have one made up here is because I'm not good at it, but it is a skill that's worth having. You can take a stick or any sort of thing like this, and instead of shaving these all the way off, you shave it down just to the end, and then you keep repeating that, slightly turning it and repeating. And what you'll end up with is called a feather stick, where essentially you have a huge bunch of these curls attached to a single stick, and then they're all there and easy to carry. And when you go to light your fire, you can just stick it directly in, and it goes up in flames because it's a lot of little surface area stuff, but it's easy to control because it's all attached. So good skill to have, not one that I've mastered yet, so I wasn't going to pretend like I was doing it. All right. Any questions yet?
Nope.
Cool. Okay. So we've talked about Nick and his fingers on the lens. We've talked about gathering the kindling and the fuel. So now what we're going to look at is methods of ignition. So to start with, our most common reliable method, because our goal here is converting a spark into a flame. If you can just start right out of the gate with a flame, then you kind of shortcut the whole fire starting thing. So nearly every survival instructor that you'll learn from, even if they're teaching friction fire of bow drill or hand drill, will still tell you carry a Bic lighter in your pocket, because it is guaranteed flame. And so you now no longer need any sort of tinder or tinder extender. You can go essentially straight to this step if you have enough fuel in there. So it's a very good backup. Even if these get wet, you can dry them out. There's methods of drying them out, but that is a downside. If this gets wet, it'll take a while to heat it and dry it out. And there's methods you can go look up on YouTube. The other downside is these buttons. If you just carry this in your pocket, it's possible you depress that button, and as it's pressed, it's leaking fuel. So if you rely on this and it ends up in your pack or somewhere else and happens to get depressed, it might be out of fuel by the time you go to use it. I recommend the Bics. I always thought it was a bunch of gibberish that people were favorites of Bics and spending that much on a lighter when you can get these for a third of the price. But there's a massive difference in quality, that these will not hold a flame in wind. These will hold a better flame. And there are people that like Zippos. They are very good in the wind. I have problems with Zippos. I tried carrying one for a while and the fuel evaporates. So likewise, if you go to use it, you might not have any fuel in it, and therefore it's useless. If these run out of fuel, it still makes sparks. So worst case scenario, you might be able to use it and spark onto some tinder, but then you're back in the game of needing a good tinder that can catch a tiny spark and convert that to a flame.
So Nick, the main reason I would have never bought a Bic is because I feel like I burn my thumb when I'm trying to hold it for a long period of time to light something.
Yep.
Is there a tip to that?
And so it's all skill based still. So if you get it this way, you can turn it up, but still it is going to heat up this whole metal area and eventually make it back to your thumb. Now, the way you get around that is if you get small enough kindling, like pine needles or something, they'll light a lot quicker than bigger stuff like this. Or you could always use this to get your tinder going, and then you throw some tinder extenders on it. So you don't want to use up your resources if you can avoid it. So instead of just sitting there and holding it for a while, do your best you can with what you have available to not waste that resource and essentially not burn your fingers at the same time. Now there's other options. So I talked about the Zippos. This is a company called Exotac. Yeah. So made in the USA. We've gone and met them. We worked with them on a couple of projects, but they make super high quality stuff. This is essentially a Zippo, but it is sealed with an O-ring. So the fuel in here isn't going to evaporate. And so same type of concept that, it's windy and you can see it's still maintaining a flame in there as the wind's blowing. So Amy, that's an option that you can kind of do and set. And then I could grab my tinder, hold it over here, get it lit, put it away. And then when I'm done here, you can blow it out and put the lid back on.
That's awesome. I love that. I've never seen it.
They also make housings for these. So it's like a big rubber sleeve that fits over, and it has a little catch that fits under the lever there so that you can't accidentally depress it. So you got to pull that little strap out before you can push that down. Another trick is if you get a small zip tie. So if you want to throw one of these in your pack, put a small zip tie around there. And as long as it gets up under that little catch there, it'll prevent that from being depressed, and therefore you can't leak the fuel out.
Oh, those are great tips. Thanks.
Another reason that the Bics are nice is if you look at the profile of the design, this is a lot stronger shape with the arc design than this. And so this can actually get punctured or crushed in your backpack as well. So a lot of little things add up. So these are all guaranteed flame. If you run out of fuel, if these aren't working for you, they can still make sparks, but there are other ways of making sparks, and that's our ferro rods. So this is a small one we have on the necklace. Have my knife over here. So this one has a larger ferro rod attached to it, and I call them ferro rods. A lot of people might refer to them as flint and steel, but again, for the sake of clarity, I call it a ferro rod because it is made of a mesh metal called ferrocerium. And essentially the ferro in that is iron. And then it's got a lot of magnesium and other components as well, that when you scrape it off, it creates enough heat that it ignites the shaved metal that's coming off of there. So you can see where I've used this one prior. This is obviously significantly larger, meant to be used with a knife. You can create large showers of sparks. These are going to be smaller, more precise, but this is something you can wear with you at all times and make sure you always have a backup in case your lighter goes out. I also have one that I carry on my keychain just as a little key ring toggle. So I've got these things everywhere because I always want fire. I never want to be in a situation where I'm without fire. I like it too much. What else? I think we just get on to starting fires now. Is that? Do we cover all the fire starter methods?
So you talked about the fat wood, right? Did you talk about the fat wood?
I haven't got there yet, but that'll be that's our. I mentioned it. Oops, turn my camera around again. Maybe. I mentioned it with the Tinder and the Tinder extenders.
The three camera view. We get the behind the scenes of Nick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So if we go to make a fire, I'm gonna use the fat wood, I think, just so I can show you guys how to process that. Talking about the fat wood, it is also called pitch wood and a couple other things. And Amy, I'll let you decide if you want to tell them what you told me. But
well, yeah, when we were going through like what to talk about for this course, I knew fat wood was natural, but like you can buy it at the store, right? Like I've got sticks of it here. Mm-hmm. And so you just don't think about the fact that you can actually find it someplace, right? So when we were doing the prep, I was like, let's talk about some things that we can use that are natural, not like fat wood. And he's like, well, that's natural. You just have to know where to find it. So obviously you can buy it ready to go, but Nick's gonna also explain how to find it.
And there are some companies also that make like a mock fat wood. It's like a pine board or something or birch board that they embed with waxy substance. So it works similar, but it's not the natural stuff. But yes, most of what you actually buy is going to be like this, to where it's a little stave of it that you can shave off what you need. You see that deep, rich color in there. But when you're out in the woods, you want to be in an evergreen sort of forest area, wooded, and you're looking for dead trees. And not all dead trees will do this. I think it has to do with the time of year that they die, or if they sometimes tip over, like if they get blown down in a windstorm, the roots are still in the ground. And so the roots are still going to be pumping sap through the trees. And I think if they die in spring or summer when the sap is running, then that's also when it continues to push the sap up the tree. Even if the tree gets chopped down, fall over, whatever, it still has a whole bunch of sap that's in there. If it's standing upright and it dies, that sap will actually feed back to the joints of where the branches intersect the trunk. And so what you end up seeing out in the woods are these really weird skeletonized looking trees. So if this was still out there, what it would probably look like is something along these lines, to where there would be a big trunk down the middle, and you would see rotted wood all kind of falling off of both sides of it, and these weird little skeleton kind of sticks poking out of it. And so that whole thing, the reason that none of this other stuff is rotted away is because it's so thickly loaded with this pine pitch that it essentially can't absorb any water, and it can't rot. So it rots away all the outside wood, and this is what it leaves. And you can see the wood itself is entirely different. Like that's smooth, it's hard. This thing probably weighs 5 pounds, whereas if it was just wood, it might only be a pound or two. So it's noticeably different in a lot of ways. And what I've done here, just to illustrate this is a piece of fat wood that I cut off of that log, And this is a same thickness piece of pine board, pine 2x2. And so this is one of my favorite things to do, is because it's so beautiful. So I'm gonna hide it for now. So this is pine board, not really see-through or anything. Now look at this beautiful thing. So that is all the pine resin and stuff that's in there. It's just so pretty.
Wow.
But you can smell it. It smells like pine sol almost, or like a varnish of sorts. And just to show them again side by side, that's the difference that it makes.
Wow.
So that's what you're looking for when you're out there. And you can always, if you're wondering if a tree may not be rotted far enough that you can't tell if there's fat wood in there, take a knife or whatever you have with you and just kind of hack at the side of it and try and get down through a couple outer layers, and you'll immediately see that darker, rich color. Or if nothing else, smell it. And it has a very distinct smell to it. The stuff you buy at the store and the stuff that sits out for a while starts to lose that on the outside, it kind of evaporates over time. But if you get down into the meat of the wood and still scuff it up, that smells pretty distinctive. And once you figure that out, you can spot this stuff all over. So that's a challenge for all of you, is next time you're out in the woods, see if you can spot a down evergreen and see if it has any fat wood on it.
I'm so ready. That's awesome. And just, you said when you were showing us the fat wood, you're like, you can chip off at one stick. And I just think back to all the camping trips that we've done, and we'll like make a house out of like 4 sticks. And
Yeah.
like, you're like, I'm just gonna shave a little bit off the side.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's all back to the skills and your resources. I had the benefit of going to a place up by Dallas. They did a Texas bushcraft gathering, and the host of the property had just found a bunch of big fatwood logs, like 20-foot long. And so they bucked them up, and they had actual fatwood log fuels that we threw on the fire, probably 8-inch diameter, and just plopped one in the fire, and it shot up huge. Like, it was probably 8-foot tall flames just blazing for about 30 minutes off of that one log. It was impressive.
Nice. We have a new challenge as soon as we're able to go camping again.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this, it also works similar to a candle, like we were talking about with the tinder extenders. That's why this is such a great resource. One, it can ignite well. It can actually take a spark if you shave it off. And I'll show you guys how to do that here. And then the other is, as this heats up, all of that stuff in there starts to melt. And then that kind of acts as the fuel that wicks through the wood, and that you burn off all the fuel before you burn up the wood. So it's super cool natural resource. And that's why a lot of people like it. And that is that. So I'm going to try and rearrange the camera here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll get set up for actually fire starting. Okay. So I'm going to get my bandana dirty. All right. If you don't have a fixed blade knife, I hope you want one by the end of this, because they're super useful. So I'm putting my stuff back together so I don't lose it.
If anyone decides they want one after this, I know a guy that makes them by hand, and right here, he's local in Houston. Yeah, so let me know if you're interested. They're pretty cool.
All right. So with the fat wood, what we're doing is we want to get as much of that inside stuff as we can. We don't really need the outside's probably evaporated over time, weathered, washed away and whatnot. And with your fixed blade knife, you want to look for one that either has like a 90-degree spine on it, or sometimes the back end is going to be a sharp edge. You could always use the blade in a pinch if you need, but again, it's all about conserving your resources. And if you dull your blade this way, then you got to resharpen it, as opposed to if you just have a sharp enough spine on the back, you can get what you need. So we could, if we want, we could do a similar thing like I did over there and get some curls. And so that's going to kind of be our flinging these things all over the place. Let me open this up the rest of the way. So we can get a couple stages of this if we want both the curls and the fuzzies, because these curls may not take a spark. If you get a real good hot spark, you might be able to get it going, but the goal is to do this in as few strikes as possible, and that just shows your proficiency. So it's all about that preparation, and then even if you don't get it on the first try, you're likely to get it second or third, and go from there. All right, so if I'm going to count that as my little things for now, it's close enough. That'll burn okay. Hopefully I don't fail. This would be embarrassing, guys. All right.
That's what I was going to say. For me.
All right, so now what I'm doing is I got a little bit of forward lean, and this is the same way you'll strike a ferro rod. Is you don't want it exactly 90. Let me see. Okay, not exactly 90. You want a little bit of forward lean, just so that front edge will catch. And then what I'm going to do is the same motion, and I'm just trying to get these little fuzzy things. And I'm going to rotate the stick side to side, because as I knock off one high ridge, then it's just flat. If I keep going back and forth, I'm just scraping flat. I want to try and catch those ridges so it'll actually remove material. And always keep the blade pointed away from you. That's one of the reasons I don't like using the rear on these, is if you're doing this, the back of your knife is like, it's over here doing weird stabby things that if your leg's in the way, it's dangerous. So practice knife safety, because Amy doesn't want to have to evacuate you or patch any holes.
They all sign liability waivers, so we're good.
And by putting this down on a solid surface like I did there, I'm sure it's really obnoxious and loud, but it makes it a lot more productive because I can push down harder. So I'm getting larger curls and fuzzies. All right, so some of these are still kind of stuck on there, which is cool, but I don't want to burn up my whole fatwood stick.
Hey,
Unlike some people.
Isn't that like your feather thing you're saying?
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I could pretend that I did that on purpose. But the feather sticking you can do with any stick. And this has just got so much pitch in it that it's sticky and it sticks together. Okay. Whew. Where are we at now? Beer break? Okay, good thing this isn't a friction fire class.
I've been drinking the whole time. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We need to catch up.
I've been talking the whole time. All right. Let's see. How do we want to do this? We'll go. All right. I'm gonna get this out of the way. I'm not cheating, I promise. Although I will show you this, which I haven't tested yet. That block that I cut of the fatwood. This is the sawdust that came off of it. You can see how it's kind of clumped together. I have not tested that, but I bet it'll work well. So we might play with that later too. So if you get fatwood and you want to make your own starter and you got a power saw, there you go. Okay, I'm coming over to my wood pile. Can't see me, probably can't. And my goal here is to build a working surface, because I have a raised grate here that I don't want all my stuff to fall down into. So I'm gonna give myself something to build upon. And this is also a good idea if you are building fires, even in an existing fire pit. Like we talked about earlier, if it has rained recently, then all the ash that is in that fire pit will likely be wet. And if you set your nice dry stuff on wet ash or wet ground, you're going to end up with wet tinder, and then it might not light. So give yourself the best chance that you can for success. I got that little cross piece in the back. I'm actually going to get a different one. All right. I like doing this, and I don't know which, if you guys can jump between, I don't know, we'll see. So I have this log set up here, one, to hold these guys, and two, because I'm going to put all my tinder up next to it. This acts as both a wind block and a protector, that when I come in and I lay my next level of kindling on top, I'm not going to just smother the flame and put it out. Because if I squish it, that'll put it out. If I do this and I lean it up against this log, now that flame has a place to live down here underneath, and all the heat will be coming up through my tinders.
Nick,
Sorry, my kindlings. I cheated.
You would do it. You would build it differently if you weren't on a grate that was raised up, right? Because you have airflow going underneath.
So not necessarily. I think this is kind of my standard method, because I don't know if the ground is wet, and I don't know if whatever I'm building on is wet or cold, especially in the winter. If you can get wood to separate it from the ground in winter, because we need heat. That's one of our critical elements for fire. And if we don't have the heat, or if the ground sucks it out, or the wetness absorbs into our dry materials that we just spent all this time processing, then we might be just shooting ourselves in the foot, as opposed to building a nice dry platform gives you a lot better opportunity to get the fire going on the first try. And that way it also catches, especially in this case, or wet ground, as your fire starts to burn, those little coals that kind of pop and crack off the little twigs and pine needles, as those fall, if they fall onto wet, cold ground, they're just going to go out. If they fall here onto something dry, then they're going to keep burning for a little bit. And then we start to build up a coal base. And worst case scenario, these bottom ones catch on fire. So then we got fire everywhere when we're trying to make a fire, which is ideal.
Okay, good. Good to know.
All right. So now I need to, whoops, all my stuff blown away. Oh. All right, I'm going to prep so that I teach it correctly. All right, these are I'm right-handed. I'm gonna put these over here so I can grab them easier. Can you guys see that? Yeah, okay. So got those. Then I got these. All right, it's beautiful. How's yours coming, Amy?
It's coming. I'm gonna show you when you're done where I am.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just get a little bit more of these fatwood curlies. So I got some good starting fuel.
While you're doing that, I asked my boyfriend to bring me a knife so I could do some prep work. And this
Did he bring you a butter knife?
No. So I'm trying to not cut myself.
Yes. Please don't. All right. Good knife safety is put your knife back in the sheath when you're not using it. Don't leave it on the ground, or you'll probably kick it or run into it or leave it behind. Okay. Sorry, this is probably boring for people watching. I'm trying to scrape up all my little fuzzies that I made, make sure they don't blow away.
That's funny you say leave it behind. We left an axe behind one time on a backpacking trip because after, or I guess a hatchet, but after building the fires, the guy just like put it in the tree because we thought we were going to be there the next day. But then we went to sleep and we heard gunshots like as soon as we went to bed. So we just like packed up camp and got out of there and forgot the hatchet. on the tree.
All right, so what I've done here is I got my little fuzzy stuff that I'm going to ignite with the ferro rod. And then I probably shouldn't have laid this on yet, but getting ahead of myself. I've got these kind of up against the back wall. So as I light that, I can bring these forward slightly. So once I get this turned into a flame, these will be my flame extenders. And then from there, I'll bring in my smallest level of kindling on top. I'll kind of hold it above the fire if I can, because the closer to the tip of the flame you get, the hotter it is, the more heat it'll transfer, I guess, until you get a bed of coals. And then the coals and down in the bottom is where it's at. And then after those catch, I can lay them down on my support board and I can come in with these guys. There's also a cool method that they're teaching. I think they call it the elevator fire lay, where you can cross some sticks here. And I don't necessarily want to try it on video, but you cross sticks, you lay this stuff on top, and then as you light it, you can then control where it is in regards to the flame. So if you drop it down, the flame starts going out, you pick it up, the flame's got more heat. And that's the goal here, is don't smother what you have. Make sure you have enough flame that it can catch the next layer. If you're struggling and you're like, oh, the flame's starting to go out, and you put all the stuff on it, you're going to smother it. And that just means you didn't have enough of your base material to start with. So next time you do it, prep more of that material. Okay. Whew. Fingers crossed. What could possibly go wrong? All right.
What are you going to use to?
A Wazoo product, obviously.
All right. Well.
So this is our fire starter necklace. I've found that I really am not good at using normal size ferro rods anymore, because this gives me the control and accuracy I need. It makes smaller sparks. It's harder to use, but once you get the skill, it's actually significantly more efficient, I would say. But if anybody's interested, you can hold it by holding both ends of the cord, pushing the back. That kind of locks it in place there. Or some people will wrap it over a finger like that. But I'm going to get up close to it. The trick here is, when using a ferro rod, you don't want to push this side. You want to pull the ferro rod, because I'm going to get this up close to the tinder. And if I pull here, I'm good to go. Sparks will drop in. If I push this and I push too hard, I'm likely going to knock over my whole tinder pile and then have to start all over or gather it all up again. So it's a hard thing to practice. It's non-intuitive, but it helps in the long run. Any questions before we do this? All right, let's see if we can get this. So I'm gonna do some practice strikes, make sure I'm good to go here. These things you'll see also have a black coating on them sometimes. That just helps protect them from corrosion. So once you scrape them a couple times, you'll see the silver, and even that will oxidize. So you just want to do a couple practices ahead of time, make sure you're getting those sparks, and then you're ready to go from there. All right. Took a few more than I wanted.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay. They were going down in there. I think the curlies were just kind of big. So now that that's kind of going, I'm going to come in with my next layer, and I'm not smothering it. I'm holding it if I can, and I'm going to get it close to the flame. My fingers are starting to get burned. So I've laid it on my support log, and I might have to move my camera. Start undoing this guy here. Go one-handed remote operation. All right, so now we can see that most of those are starting to catch, and that's what we want. You can see the flame is getting significantly larger. So we can actually come in with these guys, and I could go directly on top, or if I wanted to do more of a pyramid lay, I can come diagonal on this side with some, diagonal on this side. And that's one of the things that we didn't talk about, if you guys wanted to at some point, is the different fire lay methods. But usually it depends on what you're doing. If you just want it to look pretty, or if you plan on cooking on it. And you can start one way and transition it once it's into coal form. You can push it around and do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fire starter 102.
I'm game. Just
Look
gives
at
me an
that.
excuse to start more fires.
I know, that looks so good.
It's almost like I knew what I was doing. And so now we can see the second stage. Woo! Hey! Wind gust. Second stage is starting to catch. And so there's good solid flame through everything. So before that dies down too much, I'm going to start adding some of my next level. And again, I'm just going to try and lay it on as slow as I can in a somewhat airy manner so that it can still wick up through all the logs. I don't ever want to lay down a whole chunk of them right on top that'll not allow airflow, because that'll end up just smothering it. You still need that flow of oxygen to create the fire.
Good job, Nick.
Thanks.
Man, there were so many good tips in what you just told us. I'm gonna have to watch this video about 5 times to get all of it.
And get out and practice them.
I know, that's the thing. Now, I've got my Wazoo survival belt here. Okay. So for you guys that don't know, this is a belt that has like a bunch of hidden stuff in it. It's really cool. It's got fire starters and zip ties and a whistle. Oh, I felt really stupid, Nick. I couldn't figure out where to put the mirror. And then within like 5 seconds, my boyfriend's like, oh, it goes in the buckle.
Yeah, won't fit anywhere else.
I was like gonna message you like, where did I put this mirror? All right. So now I'm gonna show you what I did while you were gone, while you were doing that. I did a little prep work. I tried to follow what you told me. I don't know if you can see me or your fire. Okay. So
I see you right now because you're talking.
Okay, I got this out of this is what I need.
Yep.
Do I open it?
No.
I don't.
So if you open it, that's just to use the blade. So you can use that. That's the exposed part that looks like the finger grabby area on the knife. That's what you will scrape with. But what you do need to do is undo the bead chain so that you can get them separated enough.
Okay. So this is a teeny emergency. What did you call it? Not a flint.
A ferro rod.
Ferro rod. Okay.
Or some people call them fire steels because there's a brand that coined that term.
Like Camelback.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I did, I'm using my computer, so it might be a little bit more awkward. I prepped the little bit of material that I had here.
All right.
So I have little sticks. I got a lot of pine needles, and because I didn't have that cool bandana with me, you can see all my fat wood, little curlies all over the deck. So hopefully my spark doesn't go on the deck. All right, so inside my fire pit, I'm trying to set myself up for success here. Yep. Maybe I went overboard.
No, it looks good.
I put the little sticks on the bottom because I didn't have big ones. A bunch of pine needles, the fat wood I was able to get, and some dryer lint.
Yep.
You think I'm good to go?
Yeah, you got your handful of pine needles that you're gonna hold over top once you get that going.
I do. They're right here. But I might need somebody to hold the camera for me. So I'm gonna let you guys sit in anticipation for like 10 seconds. Can you help me? Can you help me real quick?
I'll make some noise so it trips over my fire instead of her empty chair.
All right. I've got somebody coming to hold the camera because I don't want to set my computer on fire. All right. So while he's coming out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, let's make sure I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, can you
zoom in on your little tinder there? You said you had dryer lint and then it looks like a small amount of fat wood. How many curlies you got in there? It just looks like 2.
Yeah, not very many. Can you see it or did it get darker?
That's good enough. So yeah, hopefully
okay.
those will catch from the lint. But your pine needles are a lot better than my next level of tinder were. So you should be okay. Just got to be efficient with your time. With
the timing, okay. I don't plan to sustain a fire. If I just get a fire going, I'm going to be very happy. Will you hold the computer and just pull it away if it goes on? Can you see that, Nick?
Yep.
Or is it dark?
No, it looks good.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to take the edge and I'm going to rub it against this part, right?
Correct. You're gonna very intentionally try and scrape material off of that.
And how close to the flint should I be? To the
close.
Okay.
As close as you can get, and then, like I said, pull the rod away instead of pushing the knife towards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good information. That's a good repeat. Okay. Oh, I see a spark. Oh, I saw a bigger spark. Ooh. Oh, I did it. I did it.
All right.
All right. So now I'm going to let that go for a second, right?
I'd go ahead and get your needles in your hand and probably hold them over. There you go. Yeah. So see if you can start catching the needles, and as soon as they take off.
Oh, I smothered it.
You're close. It'll be okay. There you go.
They burn so quickly, I got scared.
Yeah. Nicely done.
Oh, look at my fire. I'm a little bit of a smotherer. I didn't have the proper stuff set up, though.
So next time you do it with pine needles, just come in from the side and kind of hold them up at an angle from the side and let them catch. And in that way, it won't burn your hand as opposed to coming down directly on top.
Oh my gosh, I've never done that before. That was awesome.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, me too, man. And this little guy fits in my belt. Thank you. Okay, cool. Well, that was a lot of fun. I learned so much about building fires.
Good.
Especially for kind of backcountry type of camping that we do. Oh, you've got your fire. Look at you. You got your fire. They're going to get my fire. I got to sit on the ground to get me and the fire. Okay. Next time I got to plan my video more properly.
Maybe I just have longer arms.
Well, I was using the computer so that I could do the Facebook Live, and it's it's a little bit harder to manage your angle. There we go. All right, cool. So this was Fire Starter Workshop, the very first one that we've ever done. We had our expert guest here, Nick Blackman from Wazoo Survival Gear. The more I drink, the less I can say survival. But if you guys are interested in more information about how to start fires or get some of these handy tools like his necklace or the bandanas, I clearly needed the bandana when I was doing this. He's got other tips on how to use the bandana, plus the cache belts that you can put all of this cool stuff and other things that you need that make things super easy while you're out on the trails. We're going to give you his information. We're also working on a download that we're going to send to everybody. So stay tuned and we will send you all that. Thank you so much, Nick. This was great.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. And if you want to do a 102 class at any point or in person, once we actually get to go back out and be real people again, let's do it.
Look, my fire's still going. Cool. Thanks. Everyone have a great night.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.